Welcome to Warblog. I'm going to play the road to Karlivka. I've messed up a few times on this now, so I'm just going to sort of start playing it. Now, the first time I played it, I managed to take this. I just played it again. I got to the same stage and I realised that the artillery still had the same problem. But we completely failed to take it. The Ukrainians attacked all of this. This stack with all this air defence, and they failed to destroy it. Did a lot of damage, but failed to destroy it. So, but I've actually not saved that version, so I have to sort of just see how it works this time. I'm doing it quite quickly because I'm really more interested in see where the artillery comes up next turn now. But so in the first version, we managed to destroy 2 irregulars and really damage the other one, but in the other game we didn't. So at this stage, 2, 2, 1, and then we're going to put our drones on there. That's good damage. Yeah, that's what we were getting a lot of before. In fact, we're getting a lot of drones aborted. It seemed like a very different game. That first game was very lucky. Shot down. Ouch. Strategic bombers. Five, 4, 1. So again, same results as the second game. We failed to take that out. So if you bear in mind that the way the first game panned out, this is quite a devastating result. And I think it's, to some extent, again, it still sort of symbolises the importance of the indirect fire, because now we can't do that attack. I'm just sort of almost blindly moving exactly how I did before, so that's how we left it. So again, it's like a chess game where we know the opening moves now, or at least I do. Okay, so here well, I mean, I'll do the moves here. This guy's sort of coming down here, this guy's going there, no one else is moving, but we're going to concentrate our artillery and air power on this air defence units. Now, last time we did a lot of damage, but didn't rout anything, so let's see what happens this time. They're in the open. Presumably air defence systems are in the hedgerows. Right. .2, 2.5, 5.1. So now I'm going to put our drones on there. Remember, the Russians are down a drone, so the Ukrainians have got the opportunity here to do a lot of damage, to gain air superiority, and to come up a drone up, relatively speaking. Okay, interesting results, because it's exactly the same as last time, but they didn't lose any drones. So the Russians have basically failed to take Vodain, but the Ukrainians have failed to sort of take out this sort of batch of air defense systems. But the Russians have lost the drones, so the Russians have sort of come out down on this thing. Now we're going to move to the next turn, and yes, there's the artillery. It's amazing. I can't even remember how my game works. You know, I've got to sort of just try different things. I just got to put in like 30 into the movement thing, which is sort of what I did, and then I put it into the defense because it didn't seem to work, and then I've moved it back, and I don't know what I'm doing, but it now seems to be working. Doesn't really give us much of an idea how much they've got, but anyway, so it's now the Russians, so they're having trouble taking this, but we've got more units in there now. We want to sort of somehow defend these air defense units. We're in a similar position, but I think we really want to sort of take out this section here. So they didn't move, so they recovered, and interestingly enough, oh no, 4.1, 4.3. So let's see what the artillery can do. Now, the reason I gave the off-table artillery in this game is so that you can't lose it. They'll pretty much always have it, both sides. So we've managed to rout something. So in this scenario, in this game, it's taken 2 turns to do what we did before, and that was just with the artillery. So now we've only got air defense in there, and I don't think they're going to do anything against this. I'm going to just try it now with 1 unit just to see what actually happens. Could try 1 unit across the river, but that might be a bit much. Let's see. Yeah, so I win. So we take Voidane. So again, we've got to the situation where, you know, it's really more about the effectiveness of the drones, and the air power, and the indirect fire, artillery, rockets, whatever, and then the ground units. And this is what the Bakhmut group were complaining about. They were saying that they're only getting 30% of the artillery support that they wanted. And, you know, it's sort of like, well, yeah, this sort of makes sense, really. But here I think we've got to defend our air defense systems. And I think it's quite difficult to actually say, oh, how do you defend them, surrounding them by lots of troops? And in this day and age, you know, you can see by the sort of videos that they're actually, you can, unless you put all the troops on top of the units, I don't know how you defend these air defense units. I mean, there must be sort of ways of doing them, making them look like farm vehicles or haystacks, or, you know, they must have sort of ways of doing it. I mean, they must have thought of ways of doing it, because they just look so obvious to some extent. So, but what I'm saying is, in this game, we can sort of try to defend this stack by placing units in with them, but that doesn't actually work. It's precision sort of drone strikes are just precision, you know. But so now we've taken that. I think the thing to do would be to focus everything else on this. So they've lost air defense there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But unfortunately, still got this one defending. We might want to push him out of the way, but we sort of want to protect him. So we'll leave those stationary, and push him there. So we can't attack him because he's just too strong in this sort of line of this pisky built-up area. I forgot to put the woods in as well, actually. But now we want to sort of concentrate here. But let's do it with drones. So he's got 2. Remember, the Russians are down a drone. But we've taken out an air defense unit. So again, it's a scenario that seems to be sort of telling a story. In fact, I've been playing with this chat to create storylines, and I think that this game creates storylines, you know, that are relatively believable. Like ChatGPT creates storylines that are relatively believable. In actual fact, I'm going to actually start using it. I'll say, can you give me a rough breakdown on the Russian advance on Karlivka, May 2023, as a news report, and then use that as my filler, because I never type out stuff, and I'm going to start doing that. That ChatGPT is absolutely amazing. So we've tried to attack all of this, but we're not really getting far. I'm going to leave these here. I think what we're going to do is push as much as we can here. We've got to consider moving on. So let's move some of these units in this sort of general direction. And that's that for the Russian turn. These units are going to come up this road and try and take that out when it's been pummeled. So now, I'm not going to play too much because I don't want to... I've got things to do, but now you can start to see that really the game is down here. And we've lost that. It gives us sort of a big bulge out here. But, you know, what can we do with this? And I think to some extent it would be good to take out this stack. We can still continue with that stack. So again, the Ukrainians have not done any offensive action yet. It's all artillery and just hiding in trenches. Oh, look. Actually, I know they've still got that unit there. And the other thing I like is the fact that this game actually works. As I've sort of been distracted elsewhere, I come back and I realise how amazing this game is. I don't care if I say it myself. Obviously it's not the best game ever, but you know, I created this. It's quite incredible really. How you can sort of model things and do things that make sense. You know, this makes sense to me in a world of things that don't make any sense. It's sort of like, I don't understand how people play Call of Duty. You just sit there twaddling away with the controller, shooting at whatever is in front of you and tramlining, and I don't know, it just making it have entire conventions and competitions and people, you know, committing their lives to what is, I just consider to be pure old crap. This should be Olympic war blog. They should have it. They should have this is an Olympic sport. Great chess champions pitting their wits, you know, playing the Russians versus the Ukrainians. But I don't think they like that. I don't think that would be an Olympic sport. So, do we want to... We've taken out one, so let's go for it, because we're already up a drone, because the Russians are down a drone, and we're going to take a chance. Lost some drone power there, but still got the drone. So we can't get that because he's got a freshish unit, but they're going to be taking morale checks. So this is going to be a morale check, which he passed. And this is going to be a morale check at the very least, which he failed. But the air defense unit's on its own, but we've got this unit here, which can now do the attack. They'll lose their entrenchments, and they've eliminated it. Well, that's perfect. So the Russians are now down a drone. They're down 2 air defense systems. They have no air defense capability. So it's interesting to see how that all adds up and factors in. I don't know why they're getting reinforcements there. Pretty sure that shouldn't be happening. We can leave everything else as it is and move on to the Russian turn. So more reinforcements. We've got air defences coming on here. That's 2 air defence units. So now the Ukrainians are getting, you know, air superiority through the superiority of their, you know, air defence systems. The Russians are getting replacements over here. So now they're back up to where they were, but they've also got more reinforcements of troops coming in. So it's all quite exciting. But I think we've really got to, before I move these, I think I'll really try and take these, do a bit more damage over here. So again, it took us 2 turns on Voidane, and here we might similarly be successful after 2 turns. So again, it's like Bakhmut, you know, it's taking weeks and weeks. And this is just a small place, so it, you know, if a turn was a week, it's taking us 2 weeks to sort of get through and whittle them down. 5.2, 4.85, so plenty of scope there, I think, for the drones coming in. They're going to have 2 lots of drones. Oh, the Ukrainians are down a drone because they lost the other position. I'm not sure whether being in urban affects morale. Come on. So they're just entrenched and they're dug in and the bombs are falling and they're routing. That's because the strategic bombers came in. You know, the badass bombs. Right, so we should now be able to just push them out. Be interesting to see what a relatively depleted, well, no, moderately depleted air defense unit can put up against an irregular assault. Yep, nothing, because they get big reductions, I think, for being air defense units. Okay, so we've now taken these 2 small towns, so to speak, and might as well encourage them on their way to hell. So the Russians are down 2 air defense units from here, but so do the Ukrainians, but they've had reinforcements, and I'm not sure we did. I think we forgot to move them, or maybe we didn't. And then there's their air defense systems down here. So where do we want to deploy them for, sort of, because I think as we come down here, this road is going to become more important. And we're starting to take that place there. We're starting to move through all this open field. I think it's time to sort of start pushing on that unit. But again, we really can't do it without air support. But let's see what this strategic bomber can do against nothing. We'll leave them there to take that place. I think I might make the last sort of thing. So the Ukrainians, they got their. Let's make sure we move these. How much more movement have they got? So they can get there. Now, as their front line falls back, their line of supply shortens, so to speak. So they're going to get these nearer to the front nearer sooner. I can't read that. Was that an 8? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is the line of defence. Everything will be covered with air defence. We've got 3 air defence units there. 4. We'll have him covering. So he's sort of, these people are sort of on their own, but he can cover him. So now, what do we want to do with all this sort of? Again, we're just going to have to, I think, go for this air defense sector down here. Maybe the Russians shouldn't stack them all up in the same hex. Maybe that's a bad move. I mean, this one little unit's blocked that road because they're quite formidable in this sort of built-up area, this pisky sort of urban area. So we've got quite a lot of river defensive arrangements here. I think we're going to just do the artillery on here. It's quite effective. So again, the battle is defined by targeting the air defense units, and all the ground units are relatively unimportant. 5.3, 3.7. 2.3, 6.3. See, I'm a bit reluctant to try and put the drones on here because they're not really going to do a lot of damage against these irregular units, but I think we have to try. .5, so we're getting a morale check on that first unit. Well, he seems to have passed, so not much more for the Ukrainians to do. So let's move swiftly on to our Russian move. More air defense units, 2 and an irregular unit. More air defense down here for the Russians, but only 1 unit. More, well, this ground unit here. Right, so we really want to sort of somehow make some ground there, but probably going to be more interested in taking this stack out here. .3, 1.75, 1.55. This one little unit here is blocking up the entire road. But he was actually effective in being the unit that actually eliminated the air defense unit. But I think I'd rather take this out. Seem to be getting some numbers. But just not enough. But next turn we should. 5.1. Move that into there. So again, unhindered movement this way. Right, we are going to do one thing though. Let's split our air defense like that. Put him. There's 4 units there, so let's move him this way. Okay. Nice to move as much of this air defense down as possible. We've got the option to some extent to move him down here in support of all of this stuff. Okay, the blowing things up department. routed that air defense unit. Oh, we seem to have been attacking that one. I wonder if that was just a mistake. Glitch. I'll have to look at that on the video. So the Russian advance down here is almost sort of on par, really. It's sort of like not moving, and they're losing loads of stuff. He's at 5, so he's going to be doing morale checks. So the Ukrainians are doing well, drone-wise. This whole area down here, not there though. It's just rubble. They've moved everything around, so now it's the Russian turn. More reinforcements, more drones, more air defense. I think we've really got to somehow take that unit out. I mean, it can't be sitting there doing what he's doing. But what we really want to do in the first instance is to take this stuff out. So let's do the artillery on here. If we could just take this out. .6. I think I'm going to try and get rid of that unit there. There's only one. Oh, there's 2 air defense units in the area. See, when the bear brings its power to bear on it, it can pretty much do what it likes. So it's 50% down. That's not good. It's at 5.9. This is not going to be a good assault, but we might get something. 2-to-1 in exchange. Okay. Got it. Now there's just this one last stack there, which is going to be a hefty target with some fresh units. I'm thinking that it might be better See, what we could do now is target 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's just see what sort of damage we can do to this, because there's no air defense. One. Not good, because they're going to recover a lot of that. I mean, it's interesting that the Ukrainians have enough manpower to start actually moving forward like this. Because the Russians are all spent up. And look at all this air defense coming forward. He's holding his ground. Right, the Russians are going to use their artillery against this stack again. We should be able to take it out now, hopefully. No, it's still there. 7. Okay. Perhaps a touch, just a smidgen of drone power, causing morale. Let's use a bomber, strategic bomber. Oh, let's use another strategic bomber. They are still there, look. It was aborted, but they had to do a morale check and failed. Oh. Okay. I want to take that. Shot down. What we're looking at here, I think, is a scenario in which the Russian assault is slowed down. So we're building up a front line now. We've still got this little unit here causing problems. Ukrainians are still going to blow. It's just a game of... Yeah, they just... I don't know how I could do it differently for the Russians. I think the Russians needed to make more serious ground in the beginning, because they're going to lose a lot of their drone. Well, they're going to lose air superiority. They're going to lose their drones. Because the Ukrainians are not going to lose their drones. But for 6.2, that's still there. So what do they want to do with their drones this time around? Now, they're building up this sort of force around here now. Now they recovered, but do we want to spend again? Because they're going to recover. When what we really want to do is to take that out. We have no choice. That's an all or nothing. That last round on those northern units was a waste. Oh, I shouldn't have moved them. I think the Ukrainians have well and truly got the advantage. But the Russians have advanced, so now let's see what they can do this time round. They've got to take this out. Actually, the Ukrainians messed up. Should have reinforced that. I didn't think. I was just playing too quickly. Oh, we got it. But I think we still want to pummel this unit. Nope, we don't want to attack. Right, so there's, but we still got, there's loads of air defense coming in now. Strategic bombers. Let's go for a big morale check. Yes. So we can take it. Which means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He's still in air. He's got air defense. 1, 2, 3. Look at that. Let's use some strategic bombing first. Nothing. Aborted. Shot down, so lost another drone. Quarter strength. Shot down, so going pear-shaped for the Russians then. They're only at 50%. I've got a lot of air defense coming up here now. The Ukrainian strategy is still to destroy the Russian air defense units. With some success. pretty sure I should be sort of reviewing the Russian strategy at this point. I think that to some extent we should have taken out this unit by now. Oh, the Ukrainians have lost. It's a bit of a... Ouch. It's a bit of a tight area. Well, it's definitely a real build-up of Ukrainian forces here. And there's a sort of an overall strategic thing. I mean, essentially, air defences are expensive. It's only inevitable that both sides are going to run out of them. Then it becomes a much different game. More air defences from the Russians. Right, we've got to take this out. He's going to. What's he on now? 4. Right. Let's see what this. How you fare with some artillery on you. 1 little unit. Okay, that's adding up. It's going to be about 6.3. Lots of air defense down there. He's still there though. Okay, drones. Oh, shot down. He's still in there, but he's 8.75. Got him. And we finally freed this road up. It's quite surreal, really. Because we're going to need the air power, but both sides have artillery, so it's going to come down to artillery. And the Ukrainians won't need air defense if the Russians don't have any air power. And the Ukrainians have lost a few drones themselves. What to do with this artillery? I think to some extent the pain of the Russian air power is less significant now than it was. We might want to sort of focus on taking although there's a lot of air defense down there, I don't want to use the drones. There's just too much of this stuff. So we're not going to do anything with that. Whereas now the Ukrainians have got too many air defense units. Look at that. It's quite surreal, really. Probably cover all of that. The Russians have got some more air defense. I thought I put some drone reinforcements in there, but maybe not. I think I'll have to do that, because it'll make the game quite interesting if you can actually sort of start getting some reinforcement drones. I'm going to make it the last move, I think. But it's now just a slog. Trying to prioritise whether to go through one unit at a time or a big stack. This stack here looks quite promising. Again, it's exactly the same thing. It's all about the use of the indirect fire. The units on the ground just don't really have the ability to attack each other unless they're in the open, which is a bit of a different game. And I think we're seeing a lot of the sort of, oh, we've got one of their air defense units, at least that's something. However, this guy's on his own. Look at all that air defense. No, I mean, I think, like the Ukrainians, I'm not going to do anything against those sorts of odds. So we'll end that turn. I'm going to leave it at that. I think it's interesting. You know, the Russians have definitely advanced. They're definitely advancing by pummeling whatever's in front of them with air and artillery fire, and then just sort of moving the units in. Obviously, the units do have some combat effectiveness. I mean, we could have maybe attacked that unit down there sooner rather than later. But I don't think the Ukrainians have any chance of attacking, you know, actually making attacks. I mean, they might be able to attack that, but there's a river under there, so they can't attack across there anyway. When they can attack there, they can't really attack this because it's too big. They could possibly attack that, but don't have the units. I mean, they could move all these up there, but then they'd be isolated. But, you know, the sort of concept of a counter-offensive is sort of, well, you'd need the tanks and things to suddenly come on. With sort of like this mass of Russian units. I think that one of the distinguishing features is the size of the Ukrainian artillery and the inability of either side to affect the off-table artillery of the opposing player. So that gives the Ukrainian player a long-term advantage. I think definitely adding some drone reinforcements would make sense, because I think that's probably what they're going to be achieving. I think if you were to play it again, I think the Russian player would not so much need luck or chance, but I think that they could definitely come up with a much different result, not just on luck and chance, but just the general spread of probability. You know, if they hadn't lost so many drones and the Ukrainians lost more drones earlier on, if they won more of their battles earlier on, I'm pretty sure, really, to be quite honest, taking that unit out there should have been an earlier priority, because we focused as the Russians taking out the Ukrainian air defense systems, but they still seem to have absolutely loads coming on. And I think that somehow, maybe it was just this sort of the enormity of the artillery that allowed the, because artillery doesn't distinguish between air defense and sort of regular units, whereas the drones do. So these were attacking air defense units, whereas the Russians don't have so much of that. So interesting, really. I'm not going to play it again, but I wanted to play it again from before because I only got through to the first turn. But it's definitely slow going, and I'm sort of thinking, well, a lot of people are saying, oh, the Russians are really crap, because of this and that. But I think that, generally speaking, as a simulation, which I don't say it is, but as a rough simulation, if you were to accept it as a simulation, it makes a lot of sense, because what they're fighting against isn't necessarily the what's on the ground. You can be holding up, you can have a good defensive position, you can be doing all the things that, you're using your spade to dig in, and then all of a sudden, a HIMARS missile comes in and the whole building you're in is blown up and it crumbles to the ground and crushes you to death. Something like that. And just some of this footage. The footage is actually quite peculiar in many regards, because you can see all these sort of units, and the people seem to be quite resigned to the fact that these drones, these suicide drones, are going to come in and take out whatever vehicle they're standing next to, and they run away, and after it gets blown up they come back and throw sand on it or try to put it out, because they realize that there's not going to be another one. It's just one off. And they sort of, I think that, I don't know, they must have people on drone watch or something. But I don't know. You must get quite complacent, but I imagine it'd be quite sort of odd having to stand next to, a howitzer or a self-propelled gun or air defense radar station, because that suddenly, you're going to be targeted with death from the heavens. But beyond that, there's not there doesn't seem to be that much of a threat. It's not as though there are sort of lines of people in trenches just a mile away. The trenches seem to be inhabited by like 5 or 6 people per mile, and it's all about rooting them out. It all seems very odd to me, because we're not seeing a lot of the things that you might see, like drone sniper systems. They've got all these drone systems filming. So why don't they sort of somehow attach guns to them? I'm pretty sure they thought about all this stuff, but up in the India-China border, they used radiation waves to make people feel very uncomfortable and want to sort of run away. Sonic weapons, and robotic systems. We haven't seen anything like that. There's no sort of robotic trench warfare. I've seen a few videos and you can see close action combat. You sort of think, well, if you had some sort of trench robot, with a sort of a cannon on it, well, not even a cannon, just like a medium or heavy machine gun. If you had visual observation from above, you would know exactly where to shoot. They seem to be shooting each other, and quite often not using grenades. So they don't seem to have a lot of grenades. But it would seem that with suitable communications, you could use these drone systems quite effectively to tell where the opposition are. I'm pretty sure they're doing all these things, but there doesn't seem to be a lot of this sort of robotic stuff. It all seems to be sort of still fairly basic sort of belts and braces type combat. But anyway, I'll leave it at that. It's 55 minutes. I've got things to do, and I'll speak to you later. Cheerio.